Move that to there. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name's Lucas Thelen. I work for IQGO as a senior customer support engineer, helping customers use our technology and reproducing bugs and defects. I've been involved with GS Colorado for a number of years, and it's a great organization. I'm happy to teach this course. This course really got me excited because I think using open source technology and Python, we can do a lot of interesting things with it. So this will start to scratch the surface. Show of hands, how many people use Esri on a day-to-day basis? Perfect. We are going to cover Esri also. So we're going to cover GDAL, and so we're going to cover how to do the same thing in GDAL and how to do the same thing in Esri. So we're going to cover both technologies today. If you don't have an Esri login or Arc Pro, that's fine. You can still follow along. But I figured most people use Esri on a day-to-day basis, so I did want to cover both topics as long as we're talking about how to loop through a shapefile, for instance. I think it's valuable to know how to do it in GDAL and Esri. And usually if you know how to do it in one, you can do it in the other. That's a brief background on me. Does anyone have any questions to start with? Don't be shy. Bathroom and water are out the door and to the left. Water's to the right, bathrooms are to the left. Lunch will be at noon, I believe, when we take a break. We'll take a break every hour and a half to 2 hours for 10 to 15 minutes.
And Lucas, just so everybody knows, they lock the doors at 12 and open at 1.
Okay.
So if you leave, you may not be able to get back.
Okay. Well, lunch will be provided, so most people probably won't leave.
It's getting delivered around.
And then I introduced myself. I think it's valuable to go around the room and introduce everyone. Does anyone want to start? Sure, let's start with the online folks. If you're online, let me bring it up. Name where you work, what you do, and what you want to learn from the course would be great to cover. And I can participants. Does somebody want to go first?
I can start.
Perfect.
Yeah, so we can test out the sound. Let me just go ahead.
You're passing to Stephanie.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I didn't hear the last person, so.
It was Jeannie.
Oh, okay. My name's Stephanie and I work for a company called Respec. We have our hands in everything, water and natural resources, mining and energy, infrastructure, data and technology. So we do a little bit of everything. I am on the Western Slope in Grand Junction. And I like to use open source software more than Esri because I think they have enough money. But yeah, I'm just interested to learn something new today.
Nice. Hope I certainly think we'll cover that.
Okay.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
All right, I'm Benjamin Gandy. I'm a 8 through 12 social studies teacher at Primero School. I'm in far southern Colorado, near Trinidad. But I also teach GIS courses, and students here earn credit through Trinidad State College. And this is I just earned my degree, and this is my first year of teaching GIS classes. And my goal is to learn something new, help students streamline some processes with Python in their projects, and getting kids interested in this type of field, this type of work, and just showing them all the types of things they can do. So just looking to learn something new today. And thanks.
All right, can everyone hear me? Hi, I'm Sam. I'm Archuleta County GIS analyst. I live in Pagosa Springs, Colorado, and I'm excited to learn some GDAL stuff. I did some GDAL work in grad school, and I want to see how that lines up with, maybe a more, how should I say, like focused approach or something, or just a different approach. So anyway, I'm
And then I can put it on Google Drive also.
so I'm excited to be here and looking forward to it, Lucas.
Nice, thank you.
Hi, this is Ryan Teeter. I work for the U.S. Geological Survey as the hydrography standards specialist, and I'm just hoping to refresh a little bit on GDAL from when I took some in a master's program.
All right, I'll go next. My name's Alex. I work for Matrix Design Group as a GIS analyst. We're a general consulting and engineering firm. And I'm just kind of curious to learn a little more about GDAL. I used a little bit in college, but always like learning some open source solutions and not depending on Esri for everything. So excited to be here today. Sure. I'm the GIS manager in this service. In the department, but I'm going to everybody else to be here tomorrow. I've only recently read the GDAL and touched Python a little bit. That's it.
Hi, my name is Laura Getz, and I'm also based here in Pueblo, so appreciate everyone coming down to our neck of the woods. And I used to work with Robert in Pueblo County GIS department, and now I work for San Isabel Electric Association, utility-oriented GIS work. So excited to be here, and I think a lot of it will be new. So very excited for that.
Hey everyone, I'm Peter. I'm a GIS specialist for Park County, and just looking forward to learning more about open source GIS. I am Peter as well. Nice to see everyone. I work for the Crestview Land Trust in Crestview. I got in very early this morning, about 4:15, so I'm here with my book. I am a one-man GIS team in my role, at the land trust. So taking one Python class before, I found it very challenging. So I'm looking forward to another just iteration of it using open source. Learning actually before, and probably touch on that instead. Happy to be here, and also on the GISCO board as well. So.
Hi, my name is Caitlin Parsons. I'm the asset manager for a small consulting firm called INS based out of Arizona. I live in Colorado Springs though and work remotely. I've taken a few classes on Python and scripting for GIS and open source methods, but it's been a while, so I'm excited for the refreshing.
Hello, I am Kathy. I work for Every Solutions and with the consulting GIS professional services. And my name is part of GISCO. My name is Jean Hayes, and we probably have been speaking about for me over the past couple of weeks. I'm also part of this board. And I work for deficit and schools. Worked in various other GIS shops with the federal and other state departments, as well as private sector, and been doing it for about 10 years. And so with the school district, I'm doing a lot of mapping updates for interior. So it's mapping too. So that's been really fun. I haven't touched AutoCAD since 2004, so it's been a great challenge. And it's come a long way. So we're working on integrating that into GIS. So yeah, and despite everything being down, thank you so much for letting us use the rooms. So really appreciate that. And hopefully I've seen these posts before. It's the state Python, and it was really rewarding, challenging, but rewarding. So I'm looking forward to it. Hi, I'm Lisa Anderson. I work for Colorado Parks and Wildlife for the Bird Watch program. I'm pretty new to GIS. I went back to school with a career change, so I'm currently using it to just map our state control of water data. We also talk about the map on bird data. But right now, I'm kind of get the gap. So that's sort of thing. I have very limited experience with Python, and I have not done else. Thank you, everyone.
Is that everyone? Outstanding. So there should be a memory stick going around with the course content. It has all, it has Python executable, it has the course content, it has the wheel file for GDAL. It has all my source code for the course, and everything else in it. For the online people, I just gave you access to a folder. It's currently being downloaded and has 13 minutes left, but some of it should have already been uploaded. To finish everything to upload is going to take another 13 minutes. But the source code has already been uploaded. Oh, I need one more. I spoke too soon. I need to send this to one more person. Compose. Sent. To. If you can't access the course content, let me know. But I believe I should have given everyone access to it, whether you're whether you're taking this course online or here, you should have access to the content. There's one more person I have to give it to. Two more. I believe everyone should have access to the content now. And I can start another memory stick going around the room also.
Right here. Sorry, it's just taking a while. A little bit slow.
I have another one, so we'll do it that way too. Can you send me? Yeah, or just write it on a piece of paper. If you write it on a sheet of paper, I'll get you access to the content. Can people online access the course content? I'm copying the data to it now. And as soon as that finishes, I'll get it going around the room. Not to pick on somebody online, Ben, can you access the course content?
Yes, I
Perfect.
have access. Thank you.
Sweet. I think it's still uploading, but it should be done short. It's 10 minutes left. There's some data that is large that's still copying over. Thanks, Ben, for letting me know that works.
I do have access, but do you want us to wait a few minutes for everything to finish loading then?
Yeah,
drive?
you can wait a few minutes till it finishes.
Okay.
Till it finishes. We're still passing it around in the room.
I figured it was my old dad. But yeah.
I just sent it to you, Lisa.
I don't think so.
Okay. Trying to save the environment.
Somebody online tried talking real quick.
Family, drop some wisdom.
I think that.
I'm sharing my screen. So for whoever's taken my course before, I'm doing things a little differently today. I'm not using PowerPoint. So if you like PowerPoint, I'm sorry. Unfortunately, there's a famous Army colonel, I think, who essentially was like, to make meetings more productive, you should stop using PowerPoint. So it makes sense. It's fair. So figured I'd get in the 21st century. I wanted to walk through briefly what's in this folder in the GDAL course. What I suggest everyone do is create a new folder for like called GDAL in class. And that way we can keep it separate. In fact, I will do that right now. So I will create a folder called GDAL in class 2023 01 26. It's still got 50%. So it's almost done. It's on the third. I only brought 2. I don't know if anyone else has a thumb drive. There's a bunch of stuff we're going to cover before we even need it anyways, so it shouldn't be an issue. So I just created a folder. And now we're going to look in this the course content. So I have a bunch of data. So the first thing is crime data. So we're going to use some crime data. The join field is code that Esri wrote to join. And it's an aspatial join. We will talk about that shortly. We can delete this. I have data from Pennsylvania. Here's the software download. So this is the wheel file to install GDAL, and then I have the Python 3.10.2. These this you can download online. Christoph used to work at the university. He no longer does. This wheel file I don't think is actually available anymore, which is why I'm giving it to you. You can install GDAL. There's a bunch of different ways to install GDAL. You can use a wheel file. You can install it with pip. You can install it with conda, and you could write your own binaries. So there's a bunch of other ways to install GDAL. We will cover how to install GDAL shortly. Is there a way? Maybe I can do this. Let's try that. So I have the software that's needed. This is the code that we're going to write today. I have a bunch of examples, some using GDAL and then some using Esri. I split it up with a nice mix. This is line data that's created by this code that we'll write. This is a text file of parcels, and then this is just one parcel. So it's I can open this now. We will cover this shortly. This is a text file filled with coordinates. So it starts with feature 0 and then coordinate 1. And then if we scroll down, we'll see feature 2. So these are all the coordinates that make up a polygon. Who can tell me what the first and last point have in common? Yes, for a polygon, the first point and the last point would be the same. So if we look here, this ends in 3841, and we scroll down to 3841. It's the same coordinate. In order to have a closed polygon, you have to, the first point and the last point have to match. And so we're going to write Python code to loop over this text file and build geometries later in this course. And then this is Python or polygons that get created by code. This is seal data that we will be using also. This is a CSV file. Theoretically should have opened. Similarly, we're going to have to keep track of seal ID here in order to do this correctly. So if you look, this is telemetry data of a seal in the Gulf of Maine. So essentially it's taking the GPS location and date and time and the seal tag in a text file, a CSV. So if we scroll down, we'll see CLID changes from V13 to V14. One second while I pass. This one should be ready to. And then there's Stinger data, which is similar. So we'll have a bunch of data that we can play with and look at how to write Python code to interact with this data. And there's a Word document. I have most of the problems and how to set up the environment, install Python using this Word document. So we'll be using this document heavily today. First of all, does anyone know what GDAL is? Yes, it's an open source geospatial library. I believe I have the link for it right here. I should anyways. It's a library for doing geospatial analysis and conversion and raster analysis. A lot, yes. So a library is code that can be used, is written and then can be reused. So Esri has a library, ArcPy, NumPy is a library. These are all libraries of code that is already written that can be used to do mathematical computation. ArcPy can be used for geospatial analysis. GDAL can be used for geospatial analysis. Okay, so GDAL stands for Geospatial Data Abstraction Library. Essentially, it's software that's been written to do GIS analysis or conversion. It's used pretty heavily in the open source community. Esri has their competing library, and we will be talking about both today. The links down here are useful. These are useful links on how to get information about GDAL. In the other course I teach, I give a list of useful links, and this is a list of links that I find useful, from installing GDAL, installing it, what functions or methods are available, and then there's a few ArcPy links also.
We're all good.
Sweet, that was easy. That's done. Oh, I guess I didn't need the other one then. If somebody wants, Kat, is this one yours? The sneaker net. Okay, so we'll cover quickly the links because I think they're useful. The first one is the GDAL org. You can download it from here. It's the index page. The next one is the annotation, which is this one, which is a list of all methods that you can use. So it's useful to be able to look at what methods there are to know how to interact with the layer, for instance. So if we look for layer, OGR layer. This collapse represents a layer of simple features with ASCII methods. And then here's the method. You can alter a field definition. You can set fields, which allows you to set a field equal to a value. So if you wanted to say that you had a name field and you wanted to set Luke equal to that field, you would use the set field method to do that, and we will do that later today. Continuing on, this is a bunch of cookbook examples which can be helpful. So like, how do you delete a file? How do you iterate over features in a shapefile? Get the feature count. So this is a long list of things that are possible using GDAL. I think it's a good example, and it's a quick reference. So these are all sources that I use throughout making this content and writing GDAL code. These are all the sources that I went back to because maybe I'm not a programming savant. I have to go look at the documentation and see how things work. This is one of the resources I used heavily throughout this course because it had a lot of good information that was useful. And then sometimes it's a matter of just trying things. I think a lot of times when you're programming and in GIS is about thinking about how to solve the problem. That's how I spend a lot of my time, is figuring out how to solve a problem or figuring out why something works the way it does. For instance, writing this code for this course, I probably spent 6 hours looking at one bug because I couldn't figure out why it was doing what it was. So and I have a number of years doing Python and Esri, and I still spent 6 hours looking at, and I will show you what I did was wrong, and I will help you solve it a lot faster than it took me to solve it because, but I think that's the reality when you start trying to solve complex problems and you get bugs and you have to figure out why something's working the way it does. It takes time to figure it out. I didn't figure it out over one night. I mean, I took a break. I went out for a walk. I put the kids to bed, and then I came back the next night and was like, all right, I'm going to look at it again. And then I'm like, oh, I know what I did wrong. And then once you figure it out, you're like, why did I not look at this? But it's hard to sometimes see through the weeds, see the grass through the weeds, as it were. So that's just an anecdotal example of even I struggle with some of this sometimes, and that's okay. This is by no means easy content or easy things to do. The next is specific to Esri. This is talking about, I believe this one is, so Esri wrote their own intersection method. This article was written like 10 years ago. Esri has since released a pairwise intersection function, which actually does what this is doing. But in 2013, when this was written, the pairwise intersection did not exist. Essentially, and actually, I had to write something very similar for this at the USGS about 10 years ago, because my boss had some big data. He essentially had, I think it was 90 tables and 30 million records in every table. So like the data was like temperature, pH, humidity, all these variables that he wanted to look at. And he wanted to look at the intersection. Sorry, he wanted to look at the overlap of all these features. And who can tell me what arcpy.intersect management does? And if you don't know that, we'll pull up arcpy.intersect management. That's it. Come on, somebody should know what an intersection does. We do them all the time, don't we? It gives you a, technically that's not correct. It gives you the, it gives you the topological intersection between all features. So it's building a matrix from that polygon to all other polygons on the intersection, which is actually very expensive to do, because in order to, arcpy.intersect is looking from this polygon to all other polygons in the other layer, and then does an intersection to all features. If all you want to do, it's essentially building a fabric, which is from that polygon to all other polygons in the other layer. In order to get the area of overlap, though, you don't actually have to build a fabric, because you don't care about the intersection from this polygon to all other polygons. You only care about the intersection where this polygon intersects polygons in the other layer. I can draw this. We'll pull up Paint for this. So here's my first polygon in the first layer. And then I'll change the color. If you didn't know this, what arcpy.intersect management is doing. Okay. So it's gonna, so the black is the first shapefile, and then the red is the second shapefile. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 polygons, and we have one shapefile with 1 polygon, and then another shapefile with 5 polygons. What arcpy.intersect management is going to do is it's going to take this polygon and intersect it with this polygon, and it doesn't match, so it'll put a 0, but it will still do the mathematical intersection. That's why it's building a fabric, because it's doing from one polygon to all other polygons in the other shapefile. This is incredibly computationally expensive. And when you have 90 tables and 30 million records in each table, my boss did some quick mathematics and figured out it would take like 1.5 years to run in serial. Which is actually how he started to try to solve the problem. He was trying to solve the problem using intersection, because, and there's something to be said for this, arcpy.intersection is very fast to write the Python code to do an intersection. But that is incredibly computationally expensive. And so he let the code run for like 2 weeks. And he, during those 2 weeks, he was like, do you have any ideas? And I was like, no, but let me get back to you. And then I went off and thought about it, because like when somebody he was in his 50s. He had 30 years programming experience. Like, I wasn't going to come up with an answer on the fly on this. So I was like, no, but let me go think about it. And I thought about it. And I'm like, well, I knew arcpi.intersection built a topologically correct fabric between one feature to all other features. But then I was like, but if all you want is the area of overlap, you actually do not need to build the fabric to get that results. You can simply test if two features intersect, and if those two features do intersect, then do a intersection, not do an intersection from one feature to all other features, which is a lot more computationally expensive. So with that, and I also suggested we write our own join method because our pi.join management is very slow. So I think something that he said would take 1.5 years to run in serial, with those two changes, we got done in like 18 hours. And so that shows, like, by understanding the process, by understanding the problem and what you're actually trying to do. Yes, he did want an intersection, but he didn't actually really want an intersection. He just wanted the results of an intersection. And so by understanding what he actually wanted, and by doing some testing, so I did some testing, like writing my own intersection method that looked at the topological relations. So there's what's known as the Egenhofer relations, which is all the relationships between two polygons. Egenhofer. One second. I'm pulling up an example of the Egenhofer relations. So Max Egenhofer is a professor at the University of Maine who essentially looked at mathematics and topology in the 70s and 80s, and actually came up with a lot of the mathematics behind GIS relations, Egenhofer relations, images. So these are all the topological relationships between two polygons. So we can see that A is disjointed from B, A can be contained by B, B is inside of A overlaps B, A touches B, A equals B, A is covered by B, and A covered by B. So these are all the topological relations that are possible between two polygons. I don't care if those two polygons are disjointed if I want the area of overlap. So essentially, by using topological reasoning and testing if this polygon overlaps the other polygon, I want to do the intersection for only those polygons, not all the polygons. So by understanding topological reasoning and how I could write an intersection method, we took code that would have taken 1 year to run, and we got it done in 18 hours. And that's a really, I think, elegant example of how understanding the problem can then be used to help solve a problem. Because in order to solve a problem, you first have to understand the problem. So here's the arcpi.intersection. And then there's the pairwise intersection tool that came out, I think, in 2018. So the pairwise intersection just looks at the area of overlap, not builds a topologically correct fabric across all polygons. So it's an interesting example of solving the problem. the other reason that I should, this specifically is oftentimes it's useful to take a method that already exists and then write it a different way. So this is writing it using Esri. And essentially, one of the assignments today is going to be taking this code and modifying it and converting it to work in GDAL. So you know how this works in ARC. Can you translate this to a different language and a different technology? And there's a lot of learning that goes on if you have to do that, if you're forced to do that. Maybe not willingly, but there is a lot of learning by having to translate from one technology to another. What is this? Create a shapefile. So this is just an example of creating a shapefile with GDAL code. Stack Exchange is a great resource. A lot of the questions have already been asked, at least to get started. So it's useful to look at these resources. What else is there? This is again the methods of GDAL, and I think it has a graph on what methods there are or classes there are. So this is the class OGR geometry, and then OGR point is a subclass of OGR geometry. So these are subclasses of the OGR, and this just shows you all the methods that are possible. This is creating an Esri shapefile with OGR. So again, creating a shapefile using OGR, which is and the code we have today will be modified using some of these examples. The reason I like going over these links first is because I think there's a lot. We can't cover everything in GDAL. We can't cover everything in Esri. My goal is to help give you the tools to find out information on your own. And I think these resources do a pretty good job of that. So this is looking at the field type on how to create a new field in OGR. So getting a, because we have to loop through a CSV, or we will loop through a CSV later today. One of the things we have to know is how to get the value from a CSV. So this talks about looping through a CSV. Penn State has some outstanding courses in geospatial. They have a great ArcPy course. They also have a fairly good GDAL course. So both of these I did reference, and I think they have a great documentation on them. The other reason I like these resources is they actually explain the code. A lot of times you'll look at code and you'll just see lines of code, and sometimes it's hard to figure out what those lines of code do. These examples actually walk you through what each line is doing. And I think that's useful. That is very useful to new programmers. I'm going to let that one finish loading. These are both good courses by Penn State. And then these two are how to interact with cursors, or how to loop through data using ArcPy Esri cursors. So those are both. The rest of these are pretty much ArcPy. So I have a fair amount of GDAL and ArcPy links in here to find out additional information. Okay, so now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to scroll back up. And so now we're going to download Python 3.10 to 64-bit Python. You can download it from this URL. In the GDAL course, it's also in the GDAL download. we're gonna install Python 3.10 to 64-bit for all users. So if you want, you can install Python now. Even if you have Python installed, it might you do have to be careful of the version. So it wouldn't be a terrible idea to install this version anyways, because this course content has been written against this specific version of Python, and I know it works. Whereas if you use a different version of Python, it might not work. So we can take 5 minutes and install Python. There should be a check mark saying add Python to the Python path, and you want to hit yes to that. We will also talk about how to add that after the fact anyways. And when you finish installing Python, let me know. The Python executable is right here. Software downloads. So it's this one. So if you just double click this, I think I should be able to open it and uninstall it again. Because I already have it installed, it's asking me if I want to modify it, and I don't. Are you sure you want to cancel? Yes. But you will be able to install it using that executable. Is anyone having problems installing Python? Hopefully everyone has administrative rights over their own. Do you have, yeah, you might need, you're gonna need administrative rights for this course. What? You might get lucky in Esri. What version of Esri are you running? You probably have Python installed already.
Yeah.
But there's libraries you're gonna have to install that are gonna require you to have administrative rights anyways, so.
I'm not regularly. Are you?
Very little, not a lot.
Oh, yeah, I think so, maybe, because, another one. So basically, she would have to install Python.
Yeah, that's true. You wouldn't. You could. Google Lens. Yes, you might be able to do it that way too. Or get administrative rights. Sorry, I probably should have added that to the.
No, I figure, and I need the morning.
I assume most people taking this class knew that they would need, and you already told your IT, so.
They still won't give me. Let me try.
Let me. Plus, there's something to be said for setting up Python in your own box. So, does anyone have Python installed already? All right, let's keep moving. Next, so now we're going to add the Python path if it's not already set. So we can go to this URL, and this walks you through how to set the Python path. So you can use Windows key R, and then it'll pull up the system variables. You can also go to control panel. Control panel, and then do system variables. system, edit system environment variables. The reason we're doing this is because we have to make sure that when we type Python, the right version of Python is being called. That's why we're updating the system path to do that, because when I open CMD command prompt and type Python, I need the 10.3.10.2 version to come up. Otherwise, we're gonna have issues because you're gonna have multiple versions of Python installed on your local box. What? Yeah, you'll have to update that. You can change it back after this course, but you will have to update the Python path. Technically, the other way to do it is, this gets a lot harder, but you can also do Python. You could go find the executable Python version on the system and then, so for instance, documents, I think it's in C. Where's Python? Python, I don't think that, I'd have to look at where it's installed, settings. Yeah. No, that's not what we want. We want the. We want this one, apps, app data, local programs, Python 3.10. But you can install Python anywhere, so where mine's installed might not help where yours is installed. That's fair. I think when you install Python, you can specify where you want to install it. So as long as you know where you installed it, you'll be fine. So. I believe you only need, yeah, you should only need one. The way I did it was I followed the link that I added to the this link to add it. Yeah, it wouldn't hurt. It wouldn't hurt if you added the other one. This is the doc that I used to set it up. So they did both, which it wouldn't hurt anything if you did both. This was just an easy way to show how to do it. Because I didn't want to reinvent the wheel. So the reason we're adding the path Python to the path is because when I type Python here, I want the specific version of Python to come up. Conversely, if you didn't have the Python path, every time you wanted to run Python, Control-C. All right, let's put this up. So it's app data, so it's going to be C users Lucas app data local programs Python 3.10. So there's a quick trick which is useful. If you right shift right click, you can do copy as path. Sorry, copy as path, not copy. Copy as path here. This is a really quick trick. If you learn nothing else today, remember this trick. Shift right click. That's worth the $25 alone, by the way. So if you learn nothing else today, I think the course was well worth it. So it's shift right click, and then you can do copy as path. So the reason we're setting the Python path in the environment variables is so that I can type Python and have the right version come up. If you don't set the Python path, then you would have to do this. Instead of typing Python, I'd have to type this, and no one wants to remember, no one wants to have to write that. Does that make sense? So that's why we set the system variable. Yes. Sorry, I haven't. I will cover our GIS Pro examples, but you don't have to cover it. If the person can't get Python installed, we can do the Esri examples. So specifically speaking, no, you wouldn't have to. It'd be nice if you have our Pro installed, but if you don't, we can make it work either way, if that makes sense. I assumed most people would have our Pro. That's why I wanted to cover it. If you don't, you can use my computer when we're doing in-class work. I know that doesn't work for people who are taking it remotely. I think you can also get an Esri trial license too, which I think is good for 30, is it 90 days? Okay, it's 2 weeks, whatever it is. You could get an Esri trial license also. Because you're not using this for commercial use, that would not violate the terms and agreements by Esri's licensing. If you did want to download the trial version. And if all else fails, we probably set up Esri account. Jeannie could set up accounts. So if you don't have access to Esri, and you can't get the trial version to work, let me know. Let's do it that way. Okay, so now we've installed Python, great. Now we need to install pip environment, which is a package manager for Python. And then we're going to create a virtual environment using pip environment. So if you go to step 5, I create a directory, which in this case, I already created the directory manually, previously called in course. Then I'm going to use pip to install pip environment. So if you type pip install pip environment, you do have to be navigated to the C to your GDAL course directory, because we're actually going to create a virtual environment inside of the course folder. And actually, I could do this because I already have the folder. So I'm going to go to documents, date modified. Yeah, let me delete this. GDAL in class. I'm going to delete this folder. And now we're going to test how well my document is written. So we're going to open the document. I'm going to have it on this side of the screen, and then I'm going to have this over here. So I'm going to do make dir C users Lucas. Documents. GDAL in class. I'm just gonna call it in class to make it short. GDAL in class, enter. So now I've made the directory. Pip should come with Python already. I think I want to say Python. I forget when they made it available, but pip is shipped with Python already now. That wasn't always the case, but pip is installed with Python now. So if you install Python, you will have access to pip. So if you do pip install PIENV, and pip environment is a package manager. It allows us to create virtual environments and manage libraries within Python. For instance, GDAL has a bunch of dependencies for other libraries like NumPy and other libraries that GDAL requires. So this allows us to make sure that we have the correct versions of each library installed. So that's why we use pip environment. You could also take this course and just use pip in virtual environment. There's nothing that requires us to use pip environment. You could also use Conda, which is another package manager that's used heavily in data science within Python. So there's a bunch of different ways to install GDAL, whether it's Conda or using the wheel file and then installing it using pip environment. I chose pip environment just because I wanted a lightweight way to install it. And I only wanted to install GDAL. I didn't want to install everything else that could be required. So if you do pip install, and this should already be installed, so nothing should happen, I think. Yeah, already satisfied, essentially. So now I want to use pip environment to install Python 3.10. So now I'm going to create a virtual environment using pip environment to create a virtual environment to install 3.10. So pip environment install Python 3.10. And then if we run this command, now we're creating a virtual environment. So does everyone see that I just created a virtual environment? I use pip environment to install a virtual environment. Yes. Is that better? Perfect. Sorry. So now I'm using pip environment to create a new virtual environment for 3.10. Is that?
I followed the instructions that were said, I don't understand, mine is still the topic of the sort of item 3.9, but I know it's possible.
Do you have other Python paths defined?
In that variable,
You could try closing your command prompt and reopening it. Yeah, that was the other thing. You could try logging off and shutting down or restarting the computer. Yeah. Well, actually, the other thing you can do it, yeah, you could do that too, but you could also just navigate to the folder and then just run the exe. So now we should be able to create a new virtual environment. Control Z. Surprised that worked. Oh, I didn't want to do that. Okay. And then to activate the virtual environment, you can do PIP environment, pip environment shell, which will then activate this specific virtual environment that we just created. Why is it? CMD. Okay, CD2. So now we see that my virtual environment is being used. So this is the virtual environment that I set up. So the CMD is showing that that's the virtual. So now if I type Python, I see that that's the version of Python. So this is the virtual environment that pip environment, or sorry, this is the virtual environment that Python is running. So now I can do, so now I can go to the wheel file and then install GDAL on using this virtual environment. And the command to do that is pip environment install wheel file. There's a bunch of other ways you can install GDAL. You can use pip install GDAL. You can use conda install GDAL. The other way you could do this is, I'm just talking about other ways to do this. There's the OS geospatial. Which is actually a very useful way to do it. This is the other way you could install GDAL. The OSGeo project. It's the open source geospatial foundation. And you can download GDAL from here, and it's an executable. So you can choose the project. The reason I didn't do it this way is it installs a bunch of other things that I didn't really want to install. And so I would just want a GDAL. So that's why we're using pip environment and doing it that way. But you can install GDAL using OS geospatial, which is the other way to do it, or another way to do it. Yes.
I didn't remember quite a bit like the course. Then it's already this.
Sorry, say that again.
the very first step in the virtual environment, creating a directory. I'm saying that the file already exists. I think that's it.
What file are you, the full, when you do make dir?
Yeah, subdirectory of file. Path, copying for course folder. Exists.
So if you open File Explorer, does that path already exist? So then you don't need to run that command because the folder already exists. So that's why it's throwing an error, because it's saying the folder you tried to create already exists. Does that make sense?
It does, totally.
So maybe you made that path manually and then tried to do make dir to the same path.
You have to get down to the next line, it's command prompt to install the environment.
Sorry, say that again.
So,
Here, let me come back.
Yeah, so so go to file GDAL course. Yeah, but you want a GDAL course in class. So go back to Cindy. Oh, wait, yeah, so the GDAL course folder already exists, you know, but if you give users documents GDAL training, that wouldn't exist. Yeah. Yeah, so it's not there. No, that's the course. So just go to, there shouldn't be anything, right? Go to that. Okay, so then so go back like this. And do make dir C colon yeah. Yeah, and then I can just do GDAL in class. The reason that it was failing is with the GDAL course folder on the system. Does that make sense? Yep. Yeah. Perfect. So now you should be able to do Pippin's software.
same line.
Yeah.
Install.
Pippin back. Yep. Did you add Python to Python app? Because it should be installed. There should be other files. That's not what I'm finding. Because we have like on the path, we shouldn't actually have to add it. So it should automatically add it. But, after the code was and then do Python. Yeah, so now we set up Python. Is your Python pattern not working? Yeah. One thing you can do is uninstall Python and then reinstall it, and there's the checkbox, add Python. Alright. So that you should be able to now do pip environment and pip install pip environment. Yes. Oh, because they're in exit out. This is the CMP and not a Python. Okay, so when you do it after. Yeah, this is make their CMP. CMP. Sorry. No, you're in the Python shell. You're in the Python. No, you're in the Python shell. So you type back. I do the plan. So you use CMD to open up and then you type Python, which open the which opens up Python shell, and then you would so if you type Python. It'll open up Python. Yeah, I'm with you now. So now you should be able to. I think that might be what. Yeah, that's yes. How are the online folks doing? Because Python's, it doesn't matter what directory you're in for that. You have the same. No, you have the Python shell. No, you didn't have to.
type Python. This is a Python shell, to write Python. You can execute Python code inside a Python shell. You can do, exit, open parentheses, close parentheses. Now space, just exit, open parentheses, close parentheses. That closes the Python shell. The other way to do it is you can control, type Python from the In order to close the Python shell, you can do it a couple ways. You can do Control Z, you can do exit, open close parentheses. So now you control. Enter. So now you should be able to type and install. The reason we tested if we could Python was I wanted to make sure that we can type Python executable in shell. That's why we tested if we could actually.
So, yeah, mine actually goes to the embedded in there, so that's why I had to manage it where I downloaded.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah,
I think those ones are not. No, yeah, there should be a pip block, there will be a couple. We show you set up a virtual environment in the last one, not the. I think you can do, there's a way to show, virtual environments installed. What? I thought it, oh, you didn't copy it?
no.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, dash in VENV. That should give you the list. And then from there, you should be able to figure out where it's installed or where you installed it. When you do pip, the other thing you can do, if you want to look up, the other thing you could do is, so you probably already ran this. You can CD to the GDAL in class folder. And then run pip install Python 3.10, which will install a virtual environment in that folder. Does that make sense? That works too. And then pip environment shell opens or activates the virtual environment. Now we're going to install GDAL in the virtual environment. The other reason we're doing this is because I don't want to install GDAL in the, I only want to install GDAL in the specific Python virtual environment. So I have my virtual environment open in class. So now I should be able to run this command, pip environment install the wheel file. So GDAL has a lot of dependencies. That's why we're using a wheel file. So it's going to get all the dependencies and update it and then install it. So now we should have GDAL installed. To test this, we can do Python. So I open a shell again, and then I do from OSGeo import GDAL. This will test if this works correctly. And if you don't get an error here, you have GDAL installed correctly. If you can do this, you have GDAL installed correctly. Does that make sense? So now I want to exit out of the Python shell, so I can do Control Z, enter. So now I'm out of the Python shell. Now we're going to install VS Code. Who's used VS Code before? Perfect. If you haven't used VS Code's an outstanding cross-platform, cross-operating system, IDE. So it's software that's written to help programmers write software, is a way of thinking about it. Yes, you could do Notepad++, or for any people who code, you could also use Vim or Nano or just a text editor. The reason that I like VS Code is there's a lot of tools and things in VS Code that help you code faster. Yes, you can do all of this in a simple text editor, but like even styling text using Vim is hard, whereas everything is out of the box using VS Code. Okay. Having difficulty with directory setup. Yeah, can you share your screen? I'm still recording this, right? I'm recording this. Thank God. What? Yeah, so GDAL isn't installed. Did you install the wheel file? No, that's why it's not working. So you haven't installed GDAL, which is why it's saying import not found. See, everything makes sense. Got to go step by step. Got to work the problem. All right. Oh, it's because you're in the Python shell. Do Control Z for me. No, don't close it. Don't close it. Control Z, enter. Sorry, Control Z, enter. You can type Control Z and then, but you close CMD. Open CMD again. I can't hear you, Ben. I don't know if you meant to be muted, but.
No, I did not. Apologies.
No, you're good. So open CMD for me.
CMD.
Yeah, I think you should be able to type CMD. Command prompt. Perfect. Let's open that. Now type Python for me. So the command prompt is just allowing us to write or run commands against it. So now if you hit this, hit enter, you will you use the command prompt to open a Python shell. So now we're in a Python shell. Now, if you do Control Z, so if you, and then hit enter, now we've exited the command shell. So now we can do make dir. So you want to type make dir. Whoa. mkdir. And this, most of these commands will work on Mac also. There shouldn't be too many differences. Syntax, what did you type? Whoa, you, yeah, make dir, and then you have to give a file path to a folder you want to make. So make dir, and then C colon, space after dir, C colon, for, yeah, you can do backslash, users Ben, forward slash, sorry, backslash. Sorry, I misspoke. Can you go to file? Can you go to File Explorer for me? Go to documents, go to, so click up in the search box. Sorry, that's not gonna help. Go to C. Go to C on the left, bottom, down, C. There you go, go to users. Go to Benjamin. Go to documents. Copy this string. So go up to the top. Copy that. Then go back to CMD. Delete all of that. Yeah. And then just do control, and then do backslash, and then do GDAL in class. So what this is going to do is it's going to create a folder called GDAL in class in documents. And if you hit enter, it'll make the folder. Does that make sense? And then if you look over there, you just created a new folder.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Yep, glad to help.
You bet.
So now, how do I, this will stop the screen sharing. Do you want to continue? Yes. And I want to share this screen. Share. Okay. Jeannie, were you able to install GDAL? What's your question? Let me look at Jeannie's issue and then I'll look at yours. Does that work? Okay. I'm guessing it's right. So let's go to that. Yeah. Well, what version? Which version of this script's installed multiple times. So if you type Python, yeah, that's an issue. And we just add Python back. Yeah, you can just take you shouldn't have. You shouldn't have. You shouldn't have. Right. Shouldn't have. So let's start by. Let's start by. Let's. No. Do it. I'm not, I mean, no, I don't want to install it.
So this is where it's kind of.
Correct.
So I go up here.
No, that would still work. I think that is still not looking for the 9th grade. Yeah, that's why you're adding. I don't think this is. Well, no, it's actually not. Here, go back, go back. If you want to try this, go to, why do you have one ten select two?
Oh, that's a bit down.
I'm sorry.
But here's something.
I don't really need to make this.
I would say we're trying.
I don't want to. Want to know,
Yeah, it's in these,
yeah, we should do this. I would. Yeah, or you. Whatever.
So who is that?
No. It's. You could get multiple. You could get multiple. So if you did. Now if you did CMD. Yeah. Or you could also do ship right and copy. Yeah. You have to get ship down like. Over. Ship. I'll go back to. This should. Install. This should work. This should actually. You know, when you're install, GLOC? No, so it's not. Yeah, like, fresh, yeah. Fine, that should. Okay. Are you making progress? You're still probably gonna run into problems with your Python path. That's not Jack, that's just setting up the, install that, it did take me a while, it's probably been 20 hours, the first one I installed it on. Did you install that version of Python? That version, that view file is with Python 3.10. Yeah, 64. Yeah, in the software installation, I give you the version of the document. Yes. That's why I gave it, because I was like, I don't want to deal with. Here's the executable, here's the real file. I don't think it's out there yet. I don't think it's published actually. The person who I got that real file left the university and actually no longer publishes that real online. So the way that we install this actually, you either have to use Conda. You could use Conda and do it, or you can just install Python to yes. What's your? Let's do Control Z. Enter. Do not in a virtual environment. Hit me and Lisha. Okay, that's good. Now run pip install. Sorry, pip environment install. You can do Control C, enter, or you can do exit or open close class. Okay, so now do Python and do from OSQL install, then import GDAL. There you go. It's because it wasn't, you didn't install the file into the virtual environment. So you can pick that probably, what you probably did is install GDAL into the root Python installation. If that makes sense. Well, if it doesn't work, it doesn't make sense. So we have multiple versions of Python installed, right? So that installed it into a root Python. So we have Python 3.10.2, and then we use that to create a virtual environment. 3.10.2 goes to virtual environment of Python. I think what happened was you installed GDAL into the first root Python installation. Now, virtual environment allows you to have multiple Python versions installed. So sometimes you want to test against 3.6 and then also test against 3.10. You can have multiple versions of Python installed. That's why we use virtual environments, so we can have multiple versions of Python installed and then test against the or install different libraries across different versions of Python. So on some versions, you might want to know a number of now. It doesn't make sense to install a library for a version if you're not. That's why we're using virtual environments. All right, so we've created a folder, right?
got, I got this, like, it's a little there. No, I want to try to build a CD there.
No, wait. Okay, yeah, so you didn't there, right? You're not there. Is it chunk be careful? Yeah, let me make this. But file export. Go to save, go to. Go to user. Go to Peter, go to documents. Go to GDAL in class. Click up there and copy. Alright. CD. There. So now you see the to that hole.
Okay, I've got that. Now.
Now you should be
In
able
the
to see.
same line.
Yes. Yep. So the Python path is there. Here, so. Let's upgrade.